Welcome in to Bears Weekly, powered by IGS Energy, a Chicago Bears network production. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
Well, after facing three straight second-year quarterbacks, the Bears now deal with a crafty, consistent 16-year veteran Matthew Stafford and the L.A. Rams at Soldier Field on Sunday. Jeff Joniak on Bears Weekly with my Super Bowl winning Bears guard and partner Tom Thayer here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Joining us this week as well for a couple of segments. Jim Miller will be along, the former Bears QB. We've got Rome Odunze coming up big time. We got the voice of the Rams, J.B. Long. We got coordinator talk. We've got all kind of surprises for you tonight. We're audio heavy tonight. In the ESPN studio, spinning the dials, Charlie Bevins. And thanks to our producers, Dan Brilli and Jordan Trudup. And the executive producer of the Bears Radio Network is Eric Ostrowski. Tom, we got the Rams coming to town, baby. Let's go.
Big Jeff, I feel like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz because I click my heels and I just want to be home. And I think for the next 2 weeks, we're going to learn a lot more about the Bears, about what type of control they have on offense and how aggressive they can be defensively. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. Always respect Sean McVay. Always respect Matthew Stafford. They're just brilliant football people, brilliant minds, and that alone can be a challenge for a team, no matter what else is on the roster. When you got a Matthew Stafford and a guy like that particular head coach making decisions and calling plays.
Yeah, nothing's going to be easy in the NFL, and that's the great thing about this league. But I think if you can be the Chicago Bears and you can go home and you can have a performance that you can be proud of, what a sense of accomplishment. What a sense of improvement. That's exactly what this football team is looking for, and this is what you want to look forward to seeing.
All right, Bears injury report, pretty long. Baker's dozen on there. Darnell Wright limited. Kevin Byard unable to go today. Keenan Allen, though, back on a limited basis, trying to get back on the field, get the three guys that are your top three weapons in the receiver game on the field for Sunday. That would be great as the Bears look to win their seventh in a row at home dating back to last season. That's the longest active streak in the NFL. So some good news. Billings also didn't practice. Maybe that's a little rest. I don't know, but he has a sore knee as well. So there's others on there, but don't want to lose Billings. Certainly not against this Rams team that does like to run the ball as well with Kyron Williams.
I don't want to lose any of those guys. But the real reality of it is for game day, if you're going to say that you're healthy and ready to go on a game day activation, you got to be ready to go for 4 quarters. You can't go out there and say, I'll give it a try in the first quarter, and if it doesn't work out, then put in my substitution, because then that roster is down one guy. So some of these veterans and some of these young guys are going to have to be honest with the coaching staff.
All right, let's talk about the Bears' run game for a minute. Had a chance, the offensive assistants were available this week, so I had a chance to talk with Chad Morton, the Bears' running back coach, and I asked him, hey, is it possible that in this league running backs can press a little bit, and maybe like quarterbacks or receivers who fight the football, whatever? Here's his answer as he goes into what's been going on with the Bears' rushing offense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So do you see some of that now even?
I don't really see it right now. I don't. I just think it's just like everybody has to be better. You know what I mean? It's not a running back. It's not just the O-line. The receivers are a big factor in that. The tight ends, even the quarterbacks carrying out fakes, being good with the motions, just everything. So there's just a lot of stuff that we all have to get better at. And it was coaches too. Yeah, get better at, creating great plays, and we all have a part in this thing. So,
as a coach and as a former NFL player, when you see a guy pressing, like what are the signs that you see?
That's a good one. A sign
of something you went through.
Yeah, just when you start looking for, you don't trust stuff. You don't trust where the intended run is supposed to go. You just, get the ball and you start dancing around and looking everywhere else where, besides where the ball's supposed to go, and not pressing it because you just want to hurry and get there. You see open space, so you just take off that way because every run is designed, right? You got to press it. get the flow of the linebackers, get the linemen going, cutting it back, whatever it is. So when you start seeing that, that's when you really got to get on the guys and just really tell them about trusting it and just stick with the details, the design of the play, and then just execute the best of your ability.
There's still a point of attack, and there's cutbacks are welcome and so forth, but there is a design point of attack on even outside zone.
Absolutely. I mean, all these runs, I mean, you just read it out. I mean, there's keys and things that backs are reading. So, I mean, it's really pretty simple. It really is. And then with the guys that separate themselves is after they get through the hole, and then then their natural ability takes over, and then that's the ones that separate. But like I tell these guys, from point A to point B, you guys should all look the same. That first cut, it should all be the same. Then after that, you do what you do. If you're a bigger guy, run them over. If you're a quicker guy, you can make a miss, whatever, or do both, But we have to be detailed from the running back standpoint of A to B, where we get the handoff, we press the hole, and then make our cut from there, and then we go.
All right, Tom Thayer. Tom and I can see each other on Zoom. He's nodding his head affirmatively, so I'll give you the floor, and Jim Miller will join us now. He's on with us here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Go ahead, Tommy.
Very specific to the run game, and I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. The way you want to get the most improvement in your running game and the best evaluation of how the guys are doing in front, you got to hit the hole on the inside running game. You got to trust that the offensive line is going to develop a hole from the first level to the second level, and then you become a running back. So Chad Morton, he's wise beyond his years, and he's got experience because it's exactly what I've been saying the last couple weeks.
Yeah, Big Jim, I'm sure you agree as well. How you doing, by the way? You well?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Obviously, want the Bears to succeed. Very exciting year with a lot of goodwill that has been built up. And, like we said, I think it's going to take till week 8 or week 9. It's a shame that you mentioned, Jeff, that they missed the opportunity against these young quarterbacks. I mean, Anthony Richardson didn't even complete 50% of his passes. And so now the test becomes tougher, but this offense has to get up and running and humming minimum by week 9 because week 12, all those division games. Here's what I'd say. Obviously, they got to run the ball a lot better. You mentioned, Tom, about Wright being limited. They've had some issues up on their offensive line. And as Tom just mentioned on the inside zone run, and Chad Morton mentioned, this is not hard stuff. All right, you just played basically a 4-2-5 defense. If you're running inside zone run, if the weak side backer crosses basically the center, you're cutting that sucker back if he flows over the top. It'll open up either front side or back side depending on what the backers do. And I'd say the same for the outside zone run. It's not complicated stuff, but they have to run the football better to really protect a young quarterback. 52 times throwing, I think probably all of Chicago's know. That's not the map, the road map you want for young Caleb Williams.
No. Jim, what are other observations? We talked to you a couple weeks ago. You're going to be joining us every couple weeks here. What are the things that you noticed so far about the Bears?
Well, I just think for him, like the 2 interceptions, obviously forcing the ball, he's going to learn that you just got to move on your read. There'll be a point in time in the future where he'll be able to get that stuff in. Like the one that bounced off of Rome Odunze, it hit Rome Odunze in the chest. Yes, but it's a tight throw. I think we know it's double coverage there. Just move on in your read. With different colored jerseys, the coverage is going to get you to the right guy. But you've got to get through your reads with speed, set, and throw an accurate ball. Last week, I think we all know, granted, credit Caleb, he got the 2 touchdown passes, but the 3 turnovers, the 4 sacks, it's got to stop, guys, and they got to be able to run the ball.
Yes, and to me, the play action plays off of that, Tom. We saw it work. First couple weeks, there was only 11 play-action attempts, according to Pro Football Focus. I haven't checked what it was this past week, but it definitely paid off with the big play to Odunze. We'll be talking to him later on in the show.
So 2 things there. Caleb from the podium on Wednesday, he was talking about how he needs this running game, to average 4 yards per carry. And if you can do that, you can really set yourself up offensively. But if you're averaging 4 yards a carry, it can be a lot more influential in the play-action passing game. So that's what you need to get out of it. It's not looking for unrealistic yards attached to the run game. It's just got to have enough of an attachment where it's an influence.
And Jim, this Rams defense, as we look forward to this matchup, I mean, obviously, if you look at the numbers, you're going to think this defense is really poor. They're last in the league in a lot of categories. They've given up a lot of yards. They're not good against the run, but they're a lighter front. They're a 3-4 defense. But at the same time, they put a lot of pressures on Brock Purdy last week. They got a lot of guys that can get to the quarterback. It's a young defense with a bunch of hungry guys, many rookies and undrafted players. They just play a little gritty. I don't know if you've watched them at all in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Look at last week. I mean, they did not lead the entire game versus the 49ers. And then the momentum, and they carry it, and they get the victory literally the last minute of the game. So this team will fight, and they scheme well with Sean McVay and what they do offensively. Defensively, like you said, they are very young. But these guys aren't scared. Braden Fisk, who they drafted, defensive end, defensive tackle from Florida State. Jared Verse, a first-round pick who they also drafted from Florida State. And that Cam Kitchens is a big safety that is a ball hawk. So they are young. They're inexperienced. They don't know. They'll try a lot of things. They don't have Aaron Donald, so you're right. They get pushed around, but they fight. They fight, and with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback, they do not quit because Matthew will compete the entire time. So it gives them a puncher's chance, that's for sure. But they are not the legitimate strong team they once were. They are rebuilding with young players.
And their defensive coordinator, first year, Chris Shula, with a senior assistant and associate head coach Sean Desai. So there's going to be some Fangio defense in here as well. All right, when we come back, we're going to listen into some of the work of Eric Washington at the podium today as the Bears get ready for the Rams with Jim Miller and Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 24 years, Jeff Joniak on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by IGS Energy. Jeff and Tom and Jim Miller. I got the guys here, former Bears with great insight. Good to have you guys along as the Bears get ready to meet the Rams. Eric Washington, the Bears defensive coordinator. A couple of minutes from the podium, as we do each Thursday, looking at what Sean McVay and that offense is cooking up for the Bears.
It's big play capable. There's a lot of things that happen before the ball is snapped. We've got to do a good job with our alignments, with our assignments, and just making sure we have our feet in the ground ready to play.
How does, after 16 seasons in the NFL, Matthew Stafford still challenge your defense?
His arm talent has not waned at all. He can make every throw on the field. He knows exactly what you're in, so our disguise will be critical. And he knows how to get the football out of his hand, how to get them into an ideal play.
You guys have gone from facing a second-year quarterback in your first 3 games to Matthew Stafford. How does that show up just on the field?
Just his experience, his poise, his command of the offense, his ability to communicate to all 10 pieces, to be able to ID us without a whole lot of extra things that offenses typically use to help the quarterback position. Just a lot of experience, a lot of accomplishments, a lot of things that he's seen.
You guys put a lot of nickel, so Jack Sanborn's not out there a lot, but he made 2 real nice plays in the red zone, especially the interception. What are your thoughts about him?
Well, the fact that when Jack comes into the game, he's the last couple of weeks, I mean, we bring him in the game in Houston, he gets a sack. He comes in the game last week, and he gets his hands up, and he helps to create the takeaway deep in the red zone. He actually tipped the football. He's just ready to play. He's a great equalizer for us, very versatile player, extremely intelligent, smart, and works his tail off.
Eric, what have you learned about your defense the past 3 weeks when the offense is not up to their standards? And, so you guys are kind of running out there in situations you don't want to be in, but you're still getting those stops. What have you learned about the guys and kind of their resolve?
What I know about our players, and I'll say this every week, is we have great character. And that's, we're not separated from the results of the game, but I've been watching this now since I came on board. The players work hard. They're dedicated. They're there's a lot of humility. There's selflessness, and they're up to the challenge. They're focused on what they have to do to help us win week in and week out, and they're their own worst critic.
Yeah, they are. I talked to a couple of guys in the locker room about that. They don't want to give up the big play, obviously. They got to continue to stop the run, but the big plays, no matter when they happen, obviously it's not part of the plan. Tom, this man, he gets to the podium, and he's very direct every day. He a man of few words, but he gets right to the point. And what he had to say about the Rams and what they're facing, it's right to the point.
Yeah, why should you shy away from it? Because you have to know exactly what you're looking at. When you talk about the Bears defense this week, it's not going to be about Levis throwing an embarrassing interception that results in a touchdown. It's not going to be about Anthony Richardson throwing an interception in the end zone to Tremaine Edmonds. It's going to be about individual defensive players making great man-to-man plays, whether it's coverage on the back end, a defensive lineman beating an offensive lineman instantly and creating a sack out of it, or having those tackles that we've come to expect from TJ and Tremaine. So it is going to be about defensive skill effort more than looking for a quarterback to make a mistake.
I tell you, Jim, without Cooper Kupp and without Puka Nacua, you look at what they have at receiver, and you're like, okay, Tutu Atwell's been making plays, okay? Colby Parkinson, a former Seattle Seahawk, they invested in free agency, 3-year, $22 million deal. Then Kyron Williams. They've got Blake Corum in there, but they haven't used him yet, just 8 carries. So you look at this team, and the offensive line has 5 guys on the injured reserve list right now. Yeah. So, but yet they go and beat the 49ers because Matthew Stafford knows exactly what he's doing up there. What would you do against this Rams offense if you're the Bears defense? Because he hasn't done this a ton. He did a lot of 12 personnel in this game. And that's 2 tight ends, 1 back, and that kind of made a difference for the Rams.
Well, I will say this. Because of his offensive line and without the receivers, his release time is a lot longer. Even the NFL tracked it. Before all the injuries, he was getting the ball out of his hand about 2.6 seconds. After all the injuries, closer to 3. Closer to 3 seconds, actually 2.9.
So that means opportunity.
Yeah. There's opportunity. But like Tom said, it's not going to be just a flat-out stupid bad read by Matthew Stafford that leads to a turnover. It's going to have to be you're going to have to work for it. Obviously, strip sack fumble, tip ball at the line of scrimmage, where you bat the ball like what happened to C.J. Stroud last week because you're not going to fool Matthew Stafford. And every play looks the same. This is a team that when they run their play action – it looks exactly like the run play, so it causes you pause. They try to put you in conflict as a defense. And it doesn't matter. Granted, we know Kupp and Puka Nacua are great players, but they're still going to run their offense. They're going to do what they do with Kyron Williams. I think he's had a touchdown in 6 straight games, running basically ride 34 at the goal line, and nobody seems to be able to stop it. So this team will fight. They're young. They're inexperienced and they don't know, especially on defense. And look what they accomplished last week by not knowing. I mean, that's a division rival opponent in the 49ers that they should know inside and out. But yet these young players on defense don't. They're just out there playing. And much like the Bears did 2 years ago, throwing the young bucks out there and see what they can do.
All right,
but yet they're still winning games.
This is what I love about you. You can't take the quarterback out of the man. Tell everybody what Ride 34 is, because I don't know.
Yeah, it's an inside zone run that they run all the time, and it can bust both front side depending on how the linebackers flow and how the guards double team up to the backers, but it could break front side or it could break backside. Like I said, if those linebackers flow over the top, more than likely it's going to cut back where that voided area is because they flow too far. Center's able to work up, kind of get that Will backer in the mix as well as pick up the Mike backer, and you got that backside cutback lane on Ride 34.
Tom, I guarantee you, Ride 34 was not in your playbook.
Well, we didn't have the ride part. We had a 34. We had a slant 24, slant 45, but we kind of took the backside look option out of it. Okay. And we created a point of attack. We offered that to Walter, and then he took the 2.5 yards that we offered him, and then he added an extra 2.5 out to it, and we got 5 yards of carry.
Yeah, so in other words, you did have Ride 34. It was Walter Payton.
Right, yeah. Exactly. Good point.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Jim, a broad scope before we let you go here tonight, and thank you again for joining us. Love to have you back on here in season. The division. It's looking tougher than we even thought, right? With the Minnesota Vikings and the way they've been playing, I just have been very, very impressed with their defense. And what else in about a minute of time can you explain? what else has caught your eye league-wide other than that Minnesota defense and what they're doing over there with Sam Darnold?
Well, I think you hit on a good point. Probably the two most polished teams that weren't choppy through the first 3 weeks, you'd probably have to say, is Minnesota and probably Buffalo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else has been pretty choppy, is what I'd say. Offensive linemen, there's already over 90 offensive linemen hurt. So pass protection, yeah.
What?
There's 90 offensive linemen around the league. There were a couple, who was it, Drew Dahlman today and Caleb McGarry of Atlanta. Both those guys are banged up. So there's like 90 guys around the league. So offensive line is a problem. Quarterbacks are getting hurt, and obviously the sack totals, right? The Bears had 4 sacks last week on them. The sack totals are out of control. I mean, look at Deshaun Watson. In 2 out of the 3 games, he was sacked 7 times in 2 of them. Ridiculous, the sacks going on.
Well, this is that's an epidemic. Does this have anything to do with how things are done in the offseason, preseason, and leading up to week one?
Well, let me leave to a real wisecrack, because we hear that, the first 3 or 4 games of the regular season are just an extension of the preseason because that's when teams and players really get their feet wet. Look at where they're at in terms of the health status of the league.
Wow.
When you have a passive preseason, you increase the chances for injuries once you turn the dial up to 10.
Yeah. You got to play football in order to hone your craft. I mean, what was Carolina thinking by not playing Bryce Young in any preseason game? Has that dude arrived yet or something that we all don't know about? I mean, now the guy's benched. He didn't even get 1 snap in the preseason in a new offense.
Right.
Shameful what the Carolina Panthers did to him.
Hey, Big Jim, appreciate you, buddy. And we'll talk to you in a couple weeks, all right? Thank you.
All right, guys, go Bears.
All right, that's Jim Miller. When we come back, Rome Odunze joins the program as the Bears prepare for the Rams here on ESPN Chicago and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
Here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, and our special guest this week is Bears rookie wide receiver Rome Odunze. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Congratulations on your first NFL touchdown. We got to start there because you and Caleb, I told Caleb the other day, I interviewed him for something down the road, and I said, you guys are just like little kids playing in the playground after you just did something fun. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And give me your perspective on it all, how it was.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was a great moment, honestly. Something that I'm forever going to cherish. Hopefully, many more moments like that to come. But it's always special, regardless of, the moment or what was going on. Like, scoring your first NFL touchdown, like, that's something you got to celebrate and have fun with and a great memory for. So it was awesome.
And then the ongoing discussion about the ball. And, he's graciously going to allow you to keep it for perpetuity.
Yes, so graciously going to let me keep that.
That'll cost you something, right?
It's
going to cost you something.
Rome, I'm kind of thinking about your career going forward. And taking a step back to your college career, your sophomore year, you got 415 yards receiving. Your junior year, you got 1,145. Why was there an 800-yard increase in that 1 year? Because I'm kind of thinking ahead for you as terms of where you're going.
I think it was just, continue to develop as a wide receiver. I think that jump from high school to college wide receiver is a big jump in play, big jump in, things you need to know to, be proficient out there on the football field. So, finally clicking for me, as well as, coaching staff putting me in positions that have success, and have to credit them as well. I had a foundation built from the previous staff, and then when a new staff came in, they did a great job of, utilizing my skill set within the offense, and, both of those elements came together for a successful year.
Okay, now jumping ahead to your NFL career up until this point, they often talk about the window of opportunity for a quarterback, that it's a lot smaller in the NFL than it was in college. The window of opportunity for a receiver, is it equally as small, or are you in control of that window of opportunity?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it, in that light, but I think it's definitely small, regardless of what position you play here at the NFL. So you have to make the most of the opportunities for sure. But I think it's definitely, a smaller window at wide receiver, just especially in today's game when, there's so many, great wide receivers out there, and the way that the game is being played nowadays with wide receivers being a great asset to offenses, something that every organization is looking to add, or improve upon. So just making sure I'm making the most of my plays and understanding that every time I step out on that field, I want to be explosive.
Hey, Tom, you broke down for the Bears playbook this week the 47-yard catch, the longest by a Bear pass play this year by Rome Odunze from Caleb Williams. I love how you broke that down. Now, let's put two good minds together, two former NFL players. Break that thing one more time. What stuck out to you on that play for you, Tom, and then you, Rome?
I'm an ex-offensive lineman, so anytime you can incorporate play-action pass into the protection, because I think it's a more aggressive type of pass protection for the offensive line, and you kind of you can use a little bit more on the line deception. But the way that, DJ Moore helped you at that intersection, and then as soon as you got around that corner, you were kind of put that defensive back in a trailing position. And then you take it from there, because it wasn't a huge window of opportunity, as I was alluding to, but it was an incredible completion that I think meant a lot to Caleb's confidences.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'll echo everything you said about offensive line. It starts with them up front, and then doing a great.
Oh, you're just sucking up to him now.
No,
I'm kidding.
Without the protection, I'm not getting that ball. So yeah, Caleb put it in the perfect spot. I had the defender a little bit over my shoulder, so I knew I was gonna try and catch that one over the shoulder to protect the throw, and Caleb put it right where it needed to be on my outside shoulder, and was able to make the play.
And you were blown by it. That guy. He runs a 4.3.
Oh,
so yeah,
4-3,
yeah, you got up on top of him. So that's pretty damn good right there. I'll take that every day. Have you? It's in college when you got a really powerful offense like you did, and Tom left out the best part in his All-American FBS best 1,640 yards receiving last year.
Right.
It's a fireworks show. Do you have an appreciation as we move into week 4, just how hard it is to score points in the NFL?
Oh man, no, definitely. And for my first few weeks, it's definitely an adjustment for sure. Just the melody of the game. It's like, man, why are we not scoring every drive? Or why are we not, putting, points up? And you look across the league as a whole, that's never how it is. It's never, you're scoring every single drive, even though that's something that we strive for and want our offense to look like and be, reminiscent of something like that. But no, it's tough. It's tough to win games in the NFL, and it's tough to put up points. So, just nailing down and hammering down on, our details and making sure, we're doing all the things that we need to move forward.
And sorry to interrupt you. And then from a college perspective, all those games, and without me going back and looking at it all, were coverages fairly on the simple side, or did they get, depending on your opponent, pretty challenging to kind of decode versus what you're getting in the NFL, what you're about to the rest of this season?
Yeah, no, it definitely was a little bit simpler in college for sure. Defenses, their tendencies on film tend to be their tendencies that they would play in the game, where, here at the NFL level, there's a lot of more deception and having to read defenses on the fly and stuff like that. So something I'm learning and we're all learning as well.
Kind of analogize, when you're an offensive lineman and you're playing against a team that has a dominating pass rusher, and if he lines up on you that first third down, you're kind of designated as a guy that he's going to attack. When you look at the coverages that you've been facing, and you look and you study the defensive backs that you've been facing, can you determine where, is it always DJ number 1, then you number 2, and the rest of the guys accordingly? Or are you kind of breaking the huddle, getting into your position, running your route, and you're not really concerned with who's covering you or, if they're sliding your way?
I definitely recognize that, safeties and stuff are sliding towards DJ's way on several different snaps as well as, the play that we were talking about, them putting me kind of one-on-one with that DB coming downfield and allowing, DJ to soak up the safety as well as the corner that's playing on him. So recognizing those things is different, from play to play, but definitely, an emphasis was on DJ for sure a good bit last game. So, going forward, we'll see how that will continue, especially with, Keenan getting snaps and me, having that game and then maybe wanting to minimize, my production as well. So we'll see what it is going forward.
Natural grass to sports turf on an NFL level, because the Bears pretty much have a perfect outdoor field. What's your take? What's your go-to? What do you like better?
I love grass. Just because of the give, and the less risk to injury, the statistics and all that. But as well as it's kind of like backyard football again. You know what I mean? Playing on grass, it's like, man, line up and let's go.
Rome Odunze, our guest, the Bishop Gorman product, the Gatorade Player of the Year in Nevada. The reason I bring it up, I told Rome in the locker room the other day, a couple weeks ago, that the second most NFL players right now in active rosters comes from the state of
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yes, how about that? I mean, wow, it shocked the locker room. That's all I got to say.
That shocked me, too. I'm like, hold on, I got to go down and check who's all in
right
from there. But
you probably played against a few of those guys. But Gorman is a powerhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you learned a lot there, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of NFL futures in that place.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. I had, Jalen Naylor, who's doing a great job with Minnesota Vikings, just played Brevin Jordan, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I mean, there's a list of guys who came before me who are, doing their thing. So it's one of those places you go if you want to be on that trajectory.
Right. What are you seeing with the LA Rams? A young team. It's I think there's 11 rookies on that team. Tom, every one of their linebackers, inside linebackers, are undrafted free agents. Some are vets, but
it's a young man's game.
Yeah, I mean they're doing it the young way. But what do you see? Because it looks like a gritty defense.
Yeah, definitely a gritty defense. They play with a lot of effort. A lot of intensity, and we're gonna have to bring our own set of skills to kind of match that. So seeing a bunch of different things, seeing some different ways that we can hopefully exploit their coverages and stuff like that, and come up with a big day.
Rome, when you play in front of your home crowd and you have that offensive silence as opposed to playing on the road where you have a lot of noise, at this stage of the development of your career as a NFL player, do you like the silence or do you like the crowd noise, or does it really matter to you?
I like the crowd noise, honestly, sometimes, because I feel like, that adds a little element to it, especially when it gets too much. It's like, okay, what did he just call in the huddle, or, trying to get that. But it's always nice to have silence as well. So I like, there's pros and cons for both. But, the away games kind of add a little bit more juice. But it is always nice to just go out there when you're at home and just be like, okay, let's go execute. I'm going to hear the call, know what's going on, and go play.
Is there anything too hot to you? Because Jeff talked about you being from Las Vegas, and me, I'm not a great hot weather player, but nothing was ever too cold to me. Here we are in Chicago, and you don't know what the future brings. Have you had cold weather experience, or are you a warm weather guy because of your Las Vegas roots?
I honestly think I've adapted to playing cold weather. It's different out here in Chicago for sure. I don't know if I've ever played in anything cold like that, but Seattle has its fair share of cold games for sure. Got to play in Eastern Washington as well, where it was super cold, close to the 20s and stuff like that. But I know with the wind chill up here and the cold degrees that it gets over here, it's going to be a different element, but. There's so many things to support us nowadays, whether it's the heated benches, warm thermal gear and all that, so I'll be okay.
All right.
Well, even for practice tomorrow, it's supposed to be 34-mile-an-hour winds tomorrow, so you'll get a little bit of a feel for those outdoor throwing conditions in the wind.
Yeah, that'll be a challenge. It'll be fun.
All right, last one. We'll let you go. Appreciate the time. Something strikes me about you and Caleb, and not to dismiss anybody else, but you guys are top 10 picks. You handle yourself with humility. You're very expressive in the way you deliver your answers to a very wide array of questions. You guys are professionals already, man. It's just, do you notice that about him, and does he notice that about you?
I appreciate that. No, thank you. I definitely notice about him. I can't, say if he notices about me, but it's definitely comforting knowing that he's going to go out there and have be boisterous about his opinions and be able to articulate himself. That's something that is special to the young man. So that's much appreciated. But shout out to our parents, those who instilled it in us. But hopefully we are a reflection of them.
Yeah, well, it is. And so congrats, Mom and Dad, for both of you. All right, good luck this week and the rest of the season. Thanks for all your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That's Rome Odunze, Bears wide receiver. Jeff and Tom back after this on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 24 years, Jeff Joniak on the Bears Radio Network.
Calling all Bears fans. want unforgettable access to see the Chicago Bears play at Soldier Field this season, VIP official ticket packages now available for every home game. Unlock access to exclusive ticket packages that may include entry to in-stadium hospitality lounges, pregame sideline credentials, and the Chicago City Pass. Visit ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755 for more information. Again, that's ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755. Don't miss this exclusive opportunity with Chicago Bears VIP. Jeff and Tom here on Bears Weekly. Richard Hightower, the Bears special teams coordinator, quite familiar with the man he's going to be looking at on the opposite side of the field, Sean McVay, because back in Washington, back in the 2010 to 2013, Mike Shanahan was the head coach, Tom. Kyle Shanahan, you've heard this before. Kyle Shanahan was the OC. Matt LaFleur was the quarterback coach. You had Bobby Turner, who's outstanding running back coach in the league. He was on there. Richard Hightower was assistant special teams coach. You had a bunch of names. Sean McVay was on that staff as well. And there's a bunch of really outstanding coaches that have been in this league for a long time. So without further ado, let's listen in to Hightower on McVay.
I have a ton of experience working with Sean and familiarity with him. I know they're going to be ready to go. I know they're going to be coached up. I shared an office with them, so we spent a lot of, late nights grinding together. So I know how the guy's wired, and he's definitely a really good football coach. They're coming off a really big win. They were down 10 points in the fourth quarter, and they end up winning that game in regulation. And special teams had a lot to do with that. So this will be a big challenge for us, and we're looking forward to it. So with that, we can open it up to questions.
It looks like you guys have 6 on the year, special teams, penalties. Is that frustrating for you? And what's your teaching point with all of those, especially, one day?
Yeah, so my teaching point and one of our keys to victory every year or every game is to play penalty-free. So you're right, we have 6 penalties this year, and that's too many. I think we maybe had 6 all of last year. So like the first 2 years we were here, we were top 5 in least penalties committed. So it is frustrating for me because year 1 we finished number 1. Year 2 I think we finished number 5. So we just have to eliminate them. Like they come in bunches and you get bad ones, then we have to have games where we don't have any because that affects field position. It hasn't killed us yet, but we're still harping on it. Like we don't want to be a team that commits penalties. I want to be a disciplined team. I want to be a sound football team. I want to be a team that plays relentless.
Right, because it costs you field position, Tom, or it costs you a possession. And, interesting, the Rams executed a fake punt last week, took advantage of a missed field goal, had a big punt return from a guy touching the ball for the first time in his NFL life off the practice squad, and they won the game on a rookie kicker, as our friend J.B. Long called it, a Cardi party, John Cardi of Stanford, for the win. So, yes, big special teams game, and special teams definitely coming into focus. He talked a lot about the kickoff return. He says, he thinks there's going to be more returns and less touchbacks as the season moves on. Tom, can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Tom. All right. Well, we'll try and figure that out in a second. While Tom works on that, let's move to Plan B and take another break here on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
Bears Weekly brought to you by IGS Energy and by CDW, people to get it, and Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Jeff and Tom with you, and our interview now with J.B. Long, the voice of the L.A. Rams, post-Aaron Donald era.
Yeah, it's interesting. They've had the human cheat code for a decade in Aaron Donald, and now that that's been taken out from underneath them, especially defensively, I think they're finding their way. There's reason to be optimistic, but I think a lot like the Bears, save for a few precious moments, the Rams have been trailing for the entirety of September, and oftentimes by double digits, 2 touchdowns in each of the 3 games. So they could easily be 0-3, and I think we'd be singing a different tune if not for that late comeback against the 49ers. I think the best thing they have going for them is still Matthew Stafford, who is extending his prime with the best of them. I think he saved some of his best football for last. I think in the 4th year of his partnership with McVay, His decision-making has absolutely found the right balance between surgical and aggressive, but also mistake minimization, which for all those years that you saw him in Detroit was probably not his strength. The Rams' new identity, unlike the kind of the outside zone Todd Gurley look that the Bears back in 2018 on that frigid Sunday night put an end to effectively, is now more downhill duo-based, come right at you with Kyren Williams, who's a nice weapon both through the passing game and even in the shotgun run game, which has not been something that the Rams have implemented until recently. Offensive line has been a huge issue. Injury depletion there at wide receiver. Those are some of the obstacles they're still trying to overcome. And I'll finish on this long-winded answer by saying, after having the worst kicking game in the league last year and one of the most historically bad in franchise history, I think there's a glimmer of hope. A week after Joshua Carty, their rookie kicker out of Stanford, booted the game winner. They've had a couple of punts down inside the 10 the last couple of weeks. They faked a punt successfully and converted. So all sorts, a 38-yard return to set up the game-winning field goal. So it's been a long time since I've felt this confident in the third phase of a football game for the Rams.
A couple years ago, Sean McVay talked about the possibility of retiring or getting out of coaching. I don't know if that was just off-season talk or if it was true. If you didn't have a guy like Matthew Stafford on board, would he have retired, or was there anybody that was any influence in him coming back to be the head coach of the Rams?
Yeah, I do think there's a personal element to it, right? Like that would have been, just 2 years after kind of forming this partnership with Matthew Stafford, and one of those was a Super Bowl. So that would have been a bit awkward to say, hey, Matthew, come to L.A. and let's do this thing, only to then walk away from it. Likewise with Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, like real individuals that he has a fondness and affinity for. I think it would have been tough for him to walk away still at the time as the youngest head coach in the National Football League. That being said, like I'm always careful to remind folks, and Tom and Jeff, you know this, the average lifespan of an NFL head coach is no more than 2 or 3 years. Like for him to have made it into year 5, 6 and even have the thought process of like, wow, this is really wearing me down. Do I need to go reinvent myself? Am I doing this right? Do I still have as much juice as I did when I was 31 years old? I think those were all really introspective, helpful conversations for him to have with himself and with those he trusts. Coming out the other side, I do feel like Sean realizes that it would have been ridiculous in hindsight to pass up this 1 in 32 opportunity that he has in this life. And that even though he probably could be making a whole bunch of bucks, doing the TV broadcasting thing, that's for another day. And this is really what gets him out of bed in the morning. And I think his decision to come back now has a longer runway than a year-to-year agreement, if that makes sense. I don't think he's going to have those temptations or those second thoughts for a while now.
JB Long, our guest here on Bears Weekly on ESPN Radio and the Bears Radio Network with Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak. So let me dip into that just a minute because you spend, as I do, a lot of time with the head coach. I'm assuming you do the pregame interview with him. My impression from a distance, JB, would be he'd be a note-free interviewee. Is everything that you hear about it from the outside in exactly the way it is from the inside out?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, a great way of putting it, Jeff. He does wear himself on his sleeve. He doesn't hold much back. He is who he is in a very authentic, unapologetic way, which is not to say he's a perfect person. None of us are. And I think with each year that I've got to know him, he's let me in, and he's also been pretty transparent about realizing where his own shortcomings lie. I love the note-carrying mention there, because the only thing I think I've ever seen him hold in his hands would be his play sheet and the Lombardi Trophy. Other than that, he's 10 fingers free all the time. And I think that is a great revelation or insight into just how confident he is with what's between his ears. But it's not just football. He is a football savant. There's no doubt about it. But you've been around long enough to know there's lots of those people in our walk of life. There's lots of people who can identify a coverage and design a play. And he's on the short list of great ones, but that is not to me what's ever differentiated him. I think it's his energy. I think it's his focus. I think it's his care factor. I think it's his interpersonal skills. Think about what it must have taken to walk in at 30 years of age and look Aaron Donald in the eye and say, I'm the key to unlocking the thing that you want to get. I'm the key to unlocking the best years that you have left. That's asking a lot for someone who had never been a head coach at any level, but he's got those communication skills. He's got that unique ability we know people in all walks of life who can walk into a room and make you feel seen and special. That's Sean McVay. And I think that plays in a football team meeting room. I think that plays in a courtroom. I think that plays in a library. Heaven forbid he ever get into politics. I think it would work there. He's just one of those determined, gifted people that I think rises to the top in whatever profession he chooses.
J.B. Long, and the last visit by Mr. McVay, Bears beat him 15-6 in 2018 at Soldier Field. Jared Goff, 4 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Todd Gurley, 28 yards and 11 rushes. The Bears hope to do the same and slam the door on the Rams. That's going to do it for us. Special thanks to JB and Rome Odunze. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks to Dan Brody, Jordan Tredup, and Sean Graney. And coming up next, Bleck and Abdallah. You've been listening to Bears Weekly on the new radio home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears Weekly, hosted by the Mayor of Bearsville, Jeff Joniak, and Surfmaster Tom Thayer. Podcasts are available on the Chicago Bears official app, brought to you by Verizon and Apple Podcasts. Bears Weekly has been brought to you by Miller Lite.